Okay, so our last one for the day. Aaron from where's where's Aaron? From my ends. Thank you. Close it out.
Hi there, my name is Aaron Turner, and now for something completely different. So, a lot of the folks up here are from product companies. I'm from a group called IONS Research, and what IONS Research does is we're a group of it's sort of like the super friends of cybersecurity. Myself and about 170 other experts have come together to be non-vendor driven, providing insights to people about how to do things well. I think it was Rohit who said he was a Microsoft alumni. I'm also a Microsoft alumni. I exceeded him by 30 years. I helped build things like Active Directory and the Trusted Platform module and a lot of the things that were foundational to identity. And later I helped to contribute to OAuth and Spiffy. And it was cool to see some of the stuff that I've worked on referenced here by folks. So those are my bona fides, right? I've been doing identity. I wrote my first identity stack in 1989 when I was running a BBS out of my home. So I know a little bit about identity. Now, when it comes to what actually works, that's what I'm going to walk through here. A non-vendor driven view of the world to hopefully let you folks walk away to say, what are some reference architectures? What can I look to say, if I don't have money to spend, what can I do? How can I use tools that I may already have in my arsenal from other aspects of the infrastructure you have to do something to protect yourself? So first, everyone's talked about the explosion, whether it's 80 or 4 trillion. What would you say, Rohit? I think 40 trillion. Okay. So basically what happens is whether it's MCP or A to A, they all layer non-human identities in ways that are hard to understand. Out of the way that we interacted IONS with IONS clients is they set up 1 hour Ask the Expert calls with us, and they'll say, hey, I've got a question about this. And I've probably done hundreds of Ask the Expert calls over the last 6 months about MCPs and agentic workloads. And there's one IONS client, very sophisticated. They usually set up a monthly call with me where I talk through, hey, what do you think about this? And because of a series of executive decisions that they made, they decided to put all of their agent workloads in GCP and all of their MCP workloads in AWS. And this was done for business purposes, right? Because someone wanted a press release about something. Now, the downside of doing that, when you distribute that kind of world, is you now have broken up your observability. You've broken up the ability to actually constrain things in very poor ways. And so what I'm doing with that IONS client right now is helping them to clean up the mess because of the not great technical decision that was driven by a business press release decision. So it's possible, but it's going to be expensive. What I told them to communicate to their executives, the next time you want to do a press release, talk to the tech team and ask how much it's going to cost for the compensating controls to get that done. We see the unintentional consequences of AI bypassing human oversight. A case that I'm working on right now was where someone decided to create a CI/CD pipeline that would create MCP servers in front of a whole bunch of customer data, but there was no human in the loop to prevent how many MCP servers got stood up. 150 MCP servers in a day got stood up. And by the grace of whatever deity you pray to, the URLs were non-human readable URLs. They were in GCP and they were public, but they weren't discoverable because they're like hexadecimal URLs and not like human readable ones. So, that's sort of what happens when NHIs go off the rails and decide to do things that you may not be aware of. If we think about agent proliferation and NHI volume tenfold, whatever the multiplier is over the next 24 months, it's going to be significant. And part of that is because of the low code, no code implementations that are going on. So for example, within the Microsoft ecosystem, you have things like Power Automate, where someone can drop in agents, an end user can go to Power Automate and create N number of agents that connect to Salesforce or SAP or everything like that. And so the challenge that we're seeing, and this is another role that we help play at ION, we see gaps in the market and we help to put forward feature requests to the big players. So one ION's client right now I'm working with, we've got a feature request into Microsoft to say, hey, Entra ID needs a new category of identity. It's an agent identity. For example, if I want to have a bot that will help my team schedule a team meeting, it's okay if the bot sees my free busy information and what calendar I inherit in Workday, but I don't want the bot to be able to see my Workday compensation. So we need to start slicing and dicing how agent identities work. And that's a demand we've got to put forward to the platform providers. We need to demand that of them. We can't do that on our own. So here's a reference architecture. And unfortunately, this is really small text, so I'll walk you through it here. But I wrote a paper called 7 Steps to Securing Multi-AI Deployments. That's available if you want to pick it up back here with the folks in the corner. You can also get a link sent to you in email. Something that I've written, I published it for the first time in September. I've been slowly updating that over the last little bit. One of the things that I point out in that, and what I really respect about Rohit, he's a young guy who looks like he's going to prom, but I wish it was a guy like him that would have written MCP, because it was some crazy vibe coder at Anthropic who didn't have an ounce of security instinct inside of that person. And we're cleaning up that guy's mess right now. And so one of the things that I focus on in this 7 steps is, what do you need to do to leverage compensating controls, because the absolute lack of vibe coded crap that's coming out of the AI community right now. And so drive AI environments with compensating controls, constantly scan for AI services, teach developers OAuth best practices. I was on a call with an organization, and this is a pretty sophisticated insurance company, multinational, multi-billion-dollar insurance company. And I'm on this call with the lead developers for AI, and I said, hey, do you know how to do constrained delegation with OAuth tokens? What's that? I'm like, we got a problem. If you don't know how to do things like constrained delegation with OAuth tokens, properly scoped end-to-end identity from the agent to the MCP server to the data set, you're screwed. Like there's no happy outcome there. And so what I did, I asked them, okay, what is your approved large language model? And they said, we're a Copilot shop. I said, okay, I'm going to do a Copilot demo for you. I share my screen, pull up Copilot, and I went to Copilot and said, can you give me sample Python code that does OAuth constrained delegation for an agent, for an MCP server, and for a data set? Bang. And I just showed them the code. Right? Here's how you do this. And then I went and said, same thing, Copilot, can you build me a test harness that proves that the OAuth token works through the whole system? And it gave me a test harness. And so in 15 minutes, I basically, hopefully, showed those guys how to fish. Now, about a month later, we did a follow-up call, and now they're doing monthly OAuth workshops internally to drive the ability to do this. And that's what has to be done. Now, I'm a huge fan. Contributor to Spiffy Inspire, so props. Can't remember your name. What was your name? Yeah, awesome. So if we think about all of this connectivity, what I'm showing here in this diagram is, let's say this is an agent, and this agent's running, hopefully not on your endpoints. If you see MCP agents running on your endpoints, kill that with fire. Like use your EDR to like snuff that out, make sure that doesn't happen. Hopefully these MCP clients or agents are running in a constrained environment. Every single connection out of here should have 2 layers of security. 1, an OAuth token to basically properly scope what it can do. Number 2, transport layer security, preferably mutual TLS. We see situations where you don't have mutual TLS. There's the potential for data poisoning, bad things happening between the agent and the data sets. Now, what I've got here is a combination load balancer and API gateway. So a lot of people, they have API gateways. They've been using API gateways a long time. They have this thing called MuleSoft that they've been using for automatic process automation. And so you probably have an AI gateway, an API gateway sitting somewhere that's already there. You know what? API gateways can handle OAuth. They've been handling OAuth for a long time, for a lot longer than MCP servers have been around. So you use that to basically serve as your authentication layer when MCP servers or whatever the hell's going on back here isn't smart enough to handle it. And now, each step, you're checking scopes of the OAuth token, and you're doing mutual TLS between each one of these boxes. So each one of these represents a security boundary. And so when you've got the authorized request making to an MCP server, at that point, you want that OAuth token to flow all the way down to the data source. And this is where it depends on what the data source is. I had a company I'm working with where they've got unpatched Oracle servers as their data backend. Well, guess what? That's not going to handle Spiffy or OAuth tokens or whatever. So what we did is we stood up an Nginx application layer firewall in front of it, and we had Nginx terminate both the Spiffy and the OAuth tokens. So sometimes you have to be creative. Sometimes you have to roll your own stuff to make it happen. Now, this box over here, log the heck out of everything, right? You want to have prompts and responses logged. I was on a call with a major Silicon Valley company. They're an IANS client. We were helping them design their first AI offering, major company that's in the image and graphic design world. They were on the verge of releasing it was a combination agent and gateway stuff for people to create images. And as they walked through it, they had no logging for prompts or responses. And I said, why aren't you logging that? too expensive. This is a free service, and logging prompts response is way too expensive. So I put forward an example. I said, let's say I come to your site and I ask you to draw me a diagram to have a sniper's nest with an optimal shooting angle to the White House. Number one, you're going to get a call from the Secret Service. I used to do work for these people, and they're going to come and ask you about who got this sniper nest diagram, and they're going to want the prompt and the response. So you've got to think through that, right? What is the regulatory compliance for this end-to-end activity here? And you've got to log the prompts and responses. So if you'd like to dig in more, have a vendor-neutral perspective of how all this stuff is working together, I'll be over at the IANS table. We can share the paper with you. We can go from there. So thanks for your time and attention, and thank you for the invitation here.
Thank you, Aaron. Lalit, would you like to join me? Thanks again for everybody that attended, everybody that spoke over here, for all of the nice and amazing eye-opener sessions. We're ending the session side at least, and the reception and very nice drinks will be served real soon to the left, or at least my left. So thank you again. Thank you, Lalit, and the Non-Human Identity Management Group. Hopefully we're going to be able to see you again next year. Again, thanks for all of the speakers, all of the vendors that joined over here, and all of you guys. Lalit?
Yeah, I hope you all had a great time today. Got some great insights that you can take away and start to apply within your organization. I'd like to say a huge thank you to the team that sort of set up this event. Many months in the planning, and I think it's been a great day today. So thank you, and this is the beginning to start your AI journey. Thank you all.